Broadcasting from the Hyatt Regency in Seattle, Washington, Solutions Review is on location at the FME User Conference 2025, the peak of data and AI. Brought to you by Safe Software.
Hey, it's Doug Atkinson, and we are back with Paul Morris, data scientist at Terracon Consultants. You are here telling a customer success story. Tell us a little bit about what you're sharing with everybody today.
Sure. So I've been using FME for 8 or 9 years, and I kind of started out, my first kind of job was mapping underground utility data. So we would get data from probably 30 to 40 different customers, and we would have to take that data and put it into our own systems. So for a long time, we did that, manually through things like open source software. And it just took a really long time, and after a while of looking, we found FME kind of as a solution there. So I was able to kind of pick up FME, and with a bit of training, I was taking data from 30 to 40 customers and putting those in models to automate pushing them into our systems. So we could put all these in like an online web mapping system, and then our utility locators, everyone who needs to see these maps, could open them up and just kind of look at them. And before, it probably took us, probably 80-90% of my time was getting this data ready. And by creating these FME workspaces or models, we were able to cut out almost all of that time and kind of free up about 80% of my time there. That was kind of my first big success story with FME. That actually I like to kind of tell people a little bit of a joke, half jokingly, that FME helped me get into grad school because it was a smaller company, and when I was able to kind of finish up my work, I was able to work on other things, and I was able to actually kind of start grad school and do a little bit of the grad school work in support of the work I was doing at that company at the time. So it freed up so much time that I'm like, hey, I really wanted to do grad school for a while, I'm gonna go for it now. And my supervisor was like, hey, as long as you're learning things that help out our company.
And delivering, getting the job done.
You're getting the job done, you're helping us out, learn everything you can and make things better. So I was lucky to have a great supervisor at that point, and again, FME kind of helped me get into grad school. So
that's I bet you that's a success story that nobody has heard.
That
might be the more subtle of the. But you're telling two stories, right? Is there another one?
I have a lot of FME success stories.
Is that right?
Yeah, I could. Kind of my current job I've been at for about 6 years now.
Yeah.
And actually almost 7. And I kind of started out, part of the reason I got hired was because they were very interested in using FME to automate a lot of data interoperability, use a lot of different formats and convert them into kind of the ones that we use more commonly. And they were fascinated by those capabilities. They'd been to FME World Tours, and they're like, okay, what are we missing here? And that's part of the reason I got hired, was because I had some experience with FME. I'd been using it for probably 2 years at my job prior to that. And they kind of brought me in, and there was a whole evolution of different projects. So I work for an engineering company now, and it was very project-based at first. We would get, we have 7,500 people. We have thousands of projects, and since 1950s, 60s, we've had over 2 million projects that we've worked on.
Jeez.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different variability there. And you have thousands of clients that you're getting different data sets from. So what we've really done is, on a project by project basis, there are very different needs, and FME supports about 500 plus data formats. So just to be able to use that as our kind of master tool to convert that and get into other systems, whether that's like ArcGIS Online, whether it's project-wise from a more engineering standpoint, whether you're converting CAD data to GIS, GIS data to CAD. We've used that for so many different projects. I think some of the bigger ones too is we have so many kind of disparate databases throughout our own organization with all sorts of information that we've been able to use FME to connect to and really bring that into our own systems. Using a combination of FME and ArcGIS, we found FME works really well paired with things like ArcGIS and mapping software. We've been able to automate I think over 150 different, marketing maps are exported every week using a combination of FME to update the data and then to call the Python libraries that ArcGIS uses within FME and then export all those maps. So we've been able to help out a lot internally with automating things. Things that used to take, hours and hours of manual time are now automatically done every week. We've also had clients who've come to us and said, hey, we really need to create this database, but we don't really know how to go about it. And we've been able to use FME to do some pretty complex analyses, over 100 different automations kind of happening one after another, and then kind of dump the results of that analysis into a database and provide it back to them. And that has actually helped us win multi-million-dollar projects. We did this for one company in particular, and after that, they hired us to do the next 3 years of inspections on the location data that we just provided them for, which is, I think, a $1.5 million project.
So this is fascinating to me. The idea. So you're a young guy, and it's we're in this kind of interesting time where I think a lot of people are wondering, what their career might look like with the pressure of AI kind of coming down and starting to kind of eliminate some, I don't know what you'd call it. I'm almost inclined to say it's like a generic skill set, like coding.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a school of thought that says coding at a kind of a basic level, the junior coder role that you would get right out of college, might be going away because of the advances of AI. And what I'm picking up is that it might be a path to become a specialist in a particular, like you have, where you're now what I would consider to be an FME expert, right? And you found this neat flight path for your career, which is clearly going well. You're here telling success stories at a conference, grad student, all systems go. And I think it's an interest. I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, do you see that? Do you see where I'm talking about?
Yeah.
There might be some challenges for young people, and maybe that the way to think about it is to find specialties, like potentially being an FME expert.
Definitely, I think there's a lot of uncertainty around AI and how it is going to change especially technology landscape right now. Will kind of the low-level, intro-level coding, will that be necessary anymore? And what I'd say to that is really critical thinking skills. Using something like FME, you develop a lot of critical thinking skills, like how do I solve this problem? And kind of the interface of FME and learning the different transformers and processes kind of unlocks something in the brain in a way that's like, how do I build this model to solve this data problem? How am I going to solve this data problem? So kind of by doing that, what I've noticed is that at every organization I've been at, if you are good at critical thinking and solving data problems, people are going to come to you, especially when it relates to data. Data is difficult, but FME makes it easier. And people from all over my current organization come to me and like, okay, do we have this data? Sometimes I know and sometimes I don't, but I can oftentimes use FME to connect to it and answer questions. You can also AI can be helpful within FME. You can do some of that basic coding within FME without having to really know the in-depth SQL or the in-depth Python. It definitely helps to know some of that, to be able to say, okay, this AI is doing this correctly, I'm not just putting in a prompt. So it's definitely still useful to know the basics there, but I think you can kind of use tools like FME to kind of speed up career growth and just gain more critical thinking skills that will have other people asking you, okay, how do we do this with the data, or do we have this data? What is the solution here? And then once you have people coming to you, you're kind of almost a solutions analyst in a way. Kind of like you're the problem solver, and that's kind of where
Yeah, again, this is, so we just did a survey with our Insight Jam brand with an occupational therapist or a psychologist at an organizational psychologist at Northeastern around the idea of soft skills being critical for this future,
For sure,
where
yeah.
technology. The kind of headline of the report is AI isn't going to replace your jobs, but a lack of soft skills might. And the thought is that that you need certain skills regardless of what happens from a technological standpoint. But one of them that it was most valued is curiosity.
100%. So my company, in particular, we have different values, and curiosity is kind of the one that we reference the most. We have 6 or 7, and we constantly come back on the technology phase to curiosity, because we kind of believe you can be successful, especially in technology, with curiosity. Because if you're someone who is naturally curious and you're looking at any problem, you're like, how do I solve this? And that kind of just sits in the back of your head all the time. How am I going to solve this issue? And especially with data in so many different formats, FME is kind of what we look to there a lot of the time. We do have a lot of Python programmers who are very, very good at what they do, but sometimes it takes a long time to, code every different format. No one knows 500 different formats, but FME does. So you can load any single one of those formats into FME and quickly get a really good overview of the data that you are looking at. And kind of going from there, you can start your analysis and kind of think about, the end goal. What am I supposed to be doing with this data? And formulate that entire model in FME and get to that.
Yeah, no, I think this is one of the things that I'm very passionate about. The idea that AI is coming and we're going to have to come and reconcile it, but it will have it'll have an impact on kind of binary information, either rights or wrongs, I guess, because it's so capable of doing so much. So getting coding right is going to be pretty straightforward. But critical thinking is a very human trait. People who are good at it are naturally curious, potentially, or they have other soft skills. And having the ability to kind of overlay that humanity on top of the work, I think is still critical for having success, even with all these powerful tools.
Yeah, the soft skills are often not talked about enough in the technology world, I think. You have a lot of people who are very, very good at the technical side, but soft skills like communication, being able to connect with other parts of the business and say, okay, they realize technology is important, they realize data is important, and AI is the buzzword right now.
Right.
So how do we talk to the rest of the organization to tell them, okay, this is why it's important, this is how we can use the data to get to where we need to use it. And AI right now, it being the buzzword, everyone's excited about it, right? But there's also the back end. You need good data to train AI. And that is sometimes the most difficult thing to communicate, because while everyone's so excited about AI, you might have 50 years of data. A lot of it might be in, file cases in someone's office that hasn't been looked at in 50 years.
Yeah.
You might have paper records that need to be scanned in, and once you get those scanned in, you can use AI to potentially, automate OCR, like reading the text on the paper, and then put it through another AI model to say, okay, if you got this text wrong, what might this word be? You might be able to take millions of pieces of paper from a file cabinet, and with some scanning and some work, using both data and AI, you might be able to capture, what's basically a gold mine. Some engineering companies have, a bunch of borehole data. Terracon in particular, we have tons of borehole data. Hundreds of thousands of boreholes where we collect soil samples throughout the US, and you can kind of use the data from those soils to make some pretty good estimates on soil conditions around the entire US. But by having that data kind of sitting in drawers, we can use things like FME and like Python and other tools to kind of get at that data and bring it, into something we can use for a lot of products going forward.
Yeah. So what advice would you offer to any company that's thinking about advanced technologies like FME, but may have some hesitancy about whether they think their data is in the right shape to extract the value that a technology can deliver? I mean, how do you provide guidance to a company that may doubt their data quality?
So we've kind of gone through some of this at some points as well. Like, what is the quality of our data? How has it improved over time? What is it now? How can we get better? And one of the things that we have done is we've used FME to do that. We have basically brought in all our data using FME. You could start out with Python if you wanted, and then kind of move to FME is something that we've done as well. Collect all your files, all your data, and then go through the process of thinking, what do we need out of this data? What is our end goal here? And once you've decided on what your end goal is, kind of look at, if you have an Excel data or if you have a database somewhere, look at your columns and be like, what is important in here? And once you've narrowed that down, run checks on those columns. So we've done that with some of our data using FME, and just ran tens, hundreds of checks on this to say, okay, what do we want to get out of this? Do we have it? And then we kind of push that data, using FME, we'll do the analysis, we push it into another database, and we put it into kind of a human digestible dashboard. So the engineers or the people who are collecting this data can then see this and be like, okay, one, this is why it's important, because we're using it for this kind of stuff, which you can now see on the dashboard. And two, these are kind of our issues. Are we missing accurate location in specific states? Are we missing accurate location at specific office levels? What can we do to kind of go into those offices and be like, okay, we need to improve this data, and this is why. Because a lot of the times, people don't have any problem improving the data. They just, if they don't know why it's important, how are they gonna care about it, right?
Yeah.
But as soon as they know it's that important, it's in driving profit, it's helping out them, or in some ways making their lives easier, it's a lot more important to them and they'll do it. And by having that dashboard that's built on ETL data processes using FME, you have that transparency across the organization that, okay, this is how we can improve, this is why it's important, this is where we can really make a difference.
Yeah, it's an absolutely fascinating time, and it's always great to talk to a customer, somebody who's really deep into using the technology. It sounds like you're doing some amazing things, and it's great to see you here. And hopefully we'll get a chance to catch up again at another peak of data and AI event. But best of luck for the rest of the year and on the career as well.
Thank you. Great talking to you, and I love being here.
Great.
If your business would like to be featured in a future event, contact us today.